Welcome to the Maker's Image podcast produced by Crafted Network. I'm Kobe Dickinson, and today I'm sitting down with Paul Cox. Paul is the founder of a company called The Church Co., and he lives in Sydney, Australia. The Church Co. is a website development company designed specifically for churches to give them an affordable solution to having a great online presence. Paul has a background working with churches, nonprofits, and large organizations. One notable church that he was on staff with was Hillsong, where he helped develop Hillsong.com. Today, we talk about his story and how the Lord guided him to start the Church Co. Here is episode 18 of The Maker's Image. Paul, thanks for taking the time to be on The Maker's Image today. It's a pretty significant time difference from Texas, where I am, to Sydney, Australia, where you are today. So thanks for taking the time and bearing with the time difference to be on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we have been blessed by the Church Co. at the church that I'm at Five Stone Community Church, for a few years now. I have just been blown away by the help that you have been, that your team has been, to us having this website that we get complimented on left and right. Just about every week I get a compliment from somebody about how well the website functions and how easy it was to find us. And it led me to want to sit down with you today to hear more of the story of why you created the Church Co., how the Lord led you there. And I'm excited to unpack some of that with you today. But I'd like to start with where the story began. How did you first get into web development?
Yeah, right. Let's see. You could probably tell by my gray hair. It was just many moons. No. So I think I built my first web page in maybe like 1995 or something, in like front page, hosted on a computer that my dad had. It was really ancient. But I started building websites. I had like a summer internship as a graphic designer, and the summer was coming to an end, and they said, there's no work, but if you want to learn how to build websites, we do have like some tasks that you could stay on doing. And I was like, well, it was a good job. So I was like, well, I think I can learn that. And, back then it was go to Barnes and Noble, get a book and read about HTML. And,
Sure.
From there, like it turned into Flash and all that stuff. And I ended up changing my major to be like digital media, specializing in the internet and interactive systems. But this is it was like the first university to offer a digital media degree. So It was way back. Like, it's funny now because like none of the stuff we learned is relevant at all anymore.
Right.
But it got me thinking about, websites and interactions and how people do these things. And then of course I, built a website for my church and then for the church's youth group. And then I decided that, I was going to give all that up and move to Australia to become, just to do Bible college and study and play drums and do like a worship degree. And so that's what I did. So I stopped kind of building websites and did that for what I thought was going to be 1 year, ended up being 3 years. And like you said, I'm still here. But at the end of that schooling, there was a job available at the church I was at, which was Hillsong. They needed a web designer, and I interviewed, got the job, came on staff there. So that was kind of like, the first like really huge website project that I got to be a part of. That was kind of like, we're really starting to think, how are people finding church? How are they interacting? How can we use these tools to reach more people? And, during that time, we just get churches all over the world just kind of emailing us and asking for help with their websites. I mean, this is like kind of Squarespace has just kind of started. These things are like relatively new. And, we couldn't help them at the time because we were, of course, busy as a church staff as well. But I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could? And so like later after I came off staff and I was working at an agency, I decided to pick that idea up again. And that's kind of how the Church Co. was born. It was just like, there should be a really simple tool that the websites always look good, no matter how hard you try to break them. They always look good. And that's where the Church Co. was born, really.
So this may be the most important question I ask you all day. When you first built that first website, Did you learn on Apple or PC? Where did you start?
Yeah, it was a PC. It was a
It was a
PC, but
PC. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I transitioned to Apple as soon as I could, though.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an
Yeah,
important question. People getting up in arms over that question all the time.
yeah.
So at that pinnacle point in your story where you were at Hillsong when you felt like the Lord was really showing you some things about how church interacts with websites, how web development affects the church body, guests coming in, all those kind of things. What was that time like? What was it like there at Hillsong when y'all were probably cutting edge on a lot of things like that, as Hillsong tends to be on most things, to create a website that would affect the people in a positive way?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's really interesting. I think that website launched it was 2015. It finally went live. We were working on it the whole time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really like things that you see on websites all the time now were new then. So like it
Sure.
was, I remember that we got tons of pushback on the fact that it was a really long scrolling site that you could scroll through a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things, which is totally normal now. But it was things like that really came out of that project. And so, it was managing a lot of different stakeholders around the world, a lot of different priorities. We had
Yeah.
to do multilingual. We had to do, cross continent. Like, we couldn't just have an event speed because the event speed needed to be relative to the campus, which could be in a different country. It was a huge project. Um,
Yeah.
and so just learned a lot. And one of like the big things I learned was just like the type of content we talk about as a church, not Hillsong, just churches in general. When we're building a website, it's very much like, you know, how can people find the service times? What's the address? Like what's coming up, which is all really important. But I remember sitting there, after the website was launched, and I was like, we we're talking about our church services, we're talking about our upcoming events, we're talking about the music, the conferences at the time, like all of these things. And I remember just having this moment where it was like, I don't think we've really mentioned God or Jesus at all on
Hmm.
this website. And we sat down, we talked about it, and we made a page that kind of was like, there's a lot of people coming to that website because of the music, but didn't have context around it even being a church. And so
Wow.
we kind of sat down and we built out this page that really kind of explained what church is, like who Jesus is, why we do what we do. And we put a bunch of resource on it. We put a form in case you wanted to make a decision, um, that you could get in contact with a pastor. And I remember it was like a kind of a big moment for me because when I left staff, like a few months later after it launched, we'd already had like 8,000 people fill out that form, like to make
Wow.
a decision,
Wow.
like purely. I mean, this is before COVID, right? This is before church online.
Yeah.
This is just people Googling, finding a website, or listening to music, finding a website, reading a page, and then making a decision. And so that like has really been like crucial in the foundations of the church go and how we're building out tools, not just from a like this is a poster for your church, but also as a like
Hmm.
this is a ministry tool. It's actually the most effective ministry tool you have, which we can get into later.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's been one of the most impactful things for our church in working with y'all is like the blog posts that you've shared, the different social media posts that you share. They're constant reminders of how are people finding Jesus on your website, not just when you meet or your next event coming up, whatever that may be, but how are they actually finding the answer to life, being Jesus Christ. And so I've always
yeah,
appreciated that about you and in your company, and I think it's such a great leading light to what you do. And I appreciate the constant reminder of doing that because it opened my eyes to the fact that once I read that on something that you had posted a couple years ago, I began to realize what you said. Like, man, if somebody comes on here, they find out our mission statement, they find out how we were formed as a church. So many other churches do that same thing, but how many of us miss the opportunity to share Jesus with somebody that happened to stumble onto your website, not looking for Jesus, but looking for, maybe that event or whatever it may be on the site that we were thinking of, but not giving them the ultimate answer of Jesus. So I appreciate
yeah.
that about the
That's
church co a lot.
that's exactly it. Because the point isn't to just shuffle people that are already Christians between churches in your city. Like it's not
Yeah.
like, okay, I've been offended here, so let me Google find another one and go here. That's not the point. Um,
Yeah.
the point is like to bring new people in. Um,
Right.
and so like we have strategies around that. And it when we're working with the church, like we really want to highlight like that information. Like we really got to drop this whole internal language. We need to talk as if that someone has no context about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how you start to see church growth. And it's actually really fascinating if you pull up Google Analytics and look at some of the data.
Yeah.
You sometimes you're getting thousands of visits to your church website every single week, but my guess is you're not having thousands of new attendees every week.
Sure.
And so it's like, how can you fix that? How can we make that like a closer margin, like reduce the margin there, so that more people
Yeah.
that do stumble upon understand what we're doing.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. So now, years down the road, with many projects under your belt with nonprofits, churches, large organizations, all these things, if you could go back to the kid that started out in college years ago, what's some advice that you would give yourself when you first started your career?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think when I first started the church go, I was like, this is a no-brainer. Like we're building the websites for free, and it's the same cost as hosting. Like this is going to be easy.
Yeah.
It was not easy. So I'd probably just tell myself like, it's going to take a while. We're coming up on 10 years next year. I just feel like
Wow.
just be prepared to like, it's really going to take a while. I think we spent a majority of our time trying to convince people that this isn't a scam. Like we aren't
Yeah.
taking advantage. We actually really are just building the website for the church for free because we
Yeah.
actually deeply care. So I'd probably just kind of go back and warn myself, like, just be consistent, show up every single day,
Yeah.
and do the thing that you love. And, it will work in the end.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that point up of, convincing churches that it wasn't a scam, because I do think that the mission of the church co is really important, because so many churches don't have somebody on staff that knows how to build a website in an effective way, or even have someone that can manage a website and those kind of things to keep it up to date, keep it fresh, keep it up to the current standard, all of those things. And so what was that like whenever you were trying to convince churches to do this and tell them that you really did have their best in mind?
Well, yeah, let's just say I didn't have gray hair before I started.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, at first I think it was frustrating. I was just so confused because I was like,
Yeah.
like I knew the effort that went into the Hillsong project and the years and number of staff. And I was like, well, this
Hmm.
is a very comparable like outcome that you're getting for, at the time, was $20 a month. Um, and so I was just like, I was kind of blown away by the little bit of pushback we were getting. But
Yeah.
it made me more so sad for the space, because I understand where it's coming from now, like 10 years later. Like there unfortunately is a lot of kind of places that don't fulfill their word or make promises that
Right.
aren't true, which in my mind, that this is a core value thing for me, like that goes against what we believe as
Yeah.
Christians, and against what we're taught from the Bible. And so at the beginning, that was really frustrating. I think now I have like a lot more patience for it, and just kind of saying, and of course, like now, 10 years on, you can kind of Google us and find tons of kind of reviews and,
Sure.
people saying like, oh, this was actually really good. It helped our church, people like yourself. Um, and yeah, so it was a bit interesting at first, but now it's like, I mean, we go through it whenever we hire a new person, because they always kind of come
Yeah.
in being like, "That's a great deal. This is easy," and I'm like, "I know, but
Yeah.
it's probably going to take you 6 months of talking before we can kind of get this across the line. So just be prepared for that."
So I've been very thankful for the different touches that we've had with your staff members and how personal your team is. And I love that that's part of your team's nature, is to walk patiently with churches like ourselves that have been walking through the process of getting a new website. So how many people do you have on your staff there at the Church Co?
Yeah, we're a team of 12 now, and we're kind of all
Okay.
over the world. So like,
Yeah.
there's people here in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Argentina. So there's kind of people
Yeah.
all over the world, which is nice, because it means there's usually someone online at any given point if someone needs
Sure.
help, and then as well as like we can build websites in Spanish if we need to,
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, it's taken a long time to get to a team that size, but as we have grown, we've brought on more people, and yeah, I think we've built like a really good culture of like, everyone's very aware that like, like when a church comes on, they probably don't know a ton about web, which is why they've come to us in the first place. So it's like,
Right.
how can we coach and be there with them to walk them through the entire process and make it a
Yeah.
good experience? Because, like, let's be honest, no one wants to sit on chat support. If we can make it as fun as possible, like, we're going to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, let's take a break here and then we'll come back and talk more about how you interact with churches and advice that you might have for them.
Do you or your organization need new merchandise or promotional items? Then check out Crowder Concepts. Crowder Concepts is a promotional product distributor selling items like mugs, pins, and t-shirts. These memorable items provide advertisers a better cost per impression than almost every major marketing effort, such as TV, magazines, or the internet. Celebrating 20 years of business, Crowder Concepts' mission is to help you create long-lasting relationships with your clients through the power of promotional products. And it is able to supply you with every possible promotional product from over 3,000 suppliers. Crowder Concepts is a proud sponsor of Crafted Network. Use the keyword crafted when placing your first order for a one-time 10% discount. To learn more, visit crowderconcepts.com.
Okay, Paul, before we jump into the next half of our conversation, we have a rhythm of each guest being on the show plays a rapid fire game. And today you get one of the classics, one of the most popular rapid fire games. Would you rather? Okay, so it's a pretty classic game that most people understand, but I'll give you two things and you pick which one you would rather do. So I've got 10 on the list.
All right.
And we'll start with this one. Would you rather live in space or live underwater?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's tough. Wow, the claustrophobia. I'm going with space. I don't know if I could handle the submarine.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. There's something about being deep underwater that throws my brain off. Yeah. Number 2, would you rather have a rewind button or a pause button for your life?
Ooh. Yeah, let's go. I'll rewind. Rewind, yeah.
Okay. In your mind, if you had to rewind right now, what moment would you go to?
Oh, it's not that. It's like when you're like in a crowd and you make a funny joke and no one laughs. I just wind it back a bit.
That's good. That's good. Hey, that's perfect. That's a great use of the rewind button. That's good. I probably could have used that a few times today, as a matter of fact. So that's good. That's good. All right. Number 3. Would you rather never have to wait in line again or always have a good parking spot?
Never have to wait in line again. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
That one's easy for me.
Lines are the worst, man. They can be bad. Number 4. Would you rather have to write everything down by hand or only be able to speak in rhymes?
I feel like the rhyme thing would be funny for like a day and then people would hate you.
That's true. And then you'd start hating yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah. And you'd end up writing. Yeah. I'm still going to go with the rhymes. It's going to be funny in a new situation, at least.
Yeah. There'll be a good story out of that somehow. That's good. Number 5, would you rather live in a world without any music or a world without any movies?
Oh, no movies. I can't take away music. I'm a musician, so.
Number 6, would you rather only eat salty foods for the rest of your life or only eat sweet foods?
Salty. Love salt.
Salty.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7, would you rather travel to the past to meet your ancestors or to the future to meet your descendants?
Ooh, interesting. Future. I wouldn't mind seeing what my daughter's grandkids would look like and see like personality. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Number 8, would you rather live in a world where it's always summer or always winter?
Always summer. Yeah.
Always
I'll take
summer.
the beach. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're going into summer now, so everyone's happy.
Nice. What's the weather like in Sydney right now?
It's far hotter and far colder, just in general, than you would think would be. But it's starting to warm up, so I think it's like almost like 80 to 90 here now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Number 9, would you rather have to say everything twice or spell out every word as you say it?
Say everything twice. I think I already do that. So
Yeah.
I just lock that one in.
All right, last one, number 10, the most important one. Would you rather always feel like you have to sneeze but never be able to, or have the hiccups forever?
Oh, that's really bad because I get the hiccups like really like my wife is convinced I'm faking the hiccups because they're so like aggressive, and I'm like, I promise you, I wouldn't do this on purpose. So yeah, it just depends. If I want to be like selfishly, yeah, give me the hiccups, but that's
Yeah.
gonna annoy the world. And the sneeze though, that would be torture. I think I'd take the hiccups. The sneeze seems
Yeah.
like that seems bad.
Oh
Yeah,
man. Yeah, it's the
I'll take
worst
the
when or
hiccup.
whenever you can't sneeze. That's the worst. But that's funny.
That's
It's
rough.
funny that your wife thinks that about the hiccups. It's interesting.
She's convinced I'm faking it, but she just tell you how terrible they are.
That's hilarious. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you for playing Would You Rather, Paul. That was fun.
Of course.
As always, we say this is when we really get to learn the guests about their lives and get to understand them. So thanks for sharing more about yourself through that. That was fun.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
fun.
So going back into our conversation, now we were kind of talking about how the Church Co started and kind of the beginnings of the whole thing. Once you did start the Church Co and you started having these churches come on board and you were able to help them to start developing their websites, build sites that were not only affordable but effective, what were some of the things that you began to learn, I guess 10 years ago now, that you still put into practice today?
Yeah, I think when we first started, I was definitely a bit arrogant. Like
Mm-hmm.
was coming off like everyone was looking at the Hillsong site, being like, "How can we get a website just like that?" And so there was definitely just like this, "I know the best way. Let's force this onto everyone" type of kind of vibe I had. And I learned really
Yeah.
quickly that was wrong, right? Like I had only had context of this big multinational organization, um, but I realized like the majority of people that we're helping are kind of church plants or churches, that are getting off the ground or don't have a volunteer or don't have like the means to do this themselves. Um, and so like taking a very different approach um, is kind of like the biggest thing I'd say that changed. Like it changed pretty rapidly because
Yeah. Yeah.
what we thought was cool here, um, that might have been cool for a specific denomination and church of its different size. So we'll still get questions today where like a church will be like, I don't think this website will look good because we're Lutheran or we're like Anglican or very traditional. And I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the website will look exactly the same. It's just like instead of this stage photo, it's going to be like a photo of your um, like your congregation, your people. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think now, like again, when we hire anyone, it's very like you have to keep the church that you're working with in the forefront of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't. It's not a one size fits all type of thing. Every church is different, and while our tools serve all of them, like the expression of it is very different across
That's
denomination,
good.
across state, across country, language.
Sure.
So that's probably one of the biggest things that like punched me in the face real quick.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Hillsong's cool in a context. That
Yeah.
doesn't work for everyone. And in fact, like
Sure.
now I'm kind of like opposed to that, the way that we built that website. I think it's not the right way to do a big
Hmm.
multi-campus church website. I think there is a better way.
Yeah.
And I only learned that because of the churches that we were working with and hearing their
Sure.
priorities and listening to them. So the way we try to think of a website is like there's art and there's a gallery, right? Like art gets hung in a gallery. Like, that's why you go to a museum. And while the gallery can be like an architectural wonder and beautiful to look at, you're still there for the art. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the approach that we take with websites. So like all of our templates and everything are very clean, but they try to get out of the way so that your photography is what people are looking at. Or if you have a graphic designer, like the graphics that you've produced for the upcoming events are what's eye catching. Like we don't want the actual website itself to get in the way or become like almost like too animated to where it would be
That's good.
distracting from your content. So it's very much like we're trying to be the gallery that you hang like your art in. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why like thousands and thousands of churches can be using our platform and all of the website templates are the same, but every single website looks completely different. It's because the photography is giving like that expression of what the church is like to attend, who they are. like it's telling that story. The actual like animations and colors and the way things are laid out, that's I think less relevant than the actual like photos, photography, and content that you're putting in. So
Yeah.
that's like our approach to it as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's a great way to explain that. You and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and I know there's a large number of churches that you work with, both large and small. How many churches is it that you work with now?
Yeah, we've built over, like to date, we've built over 5,000 websites for churches, which is kind
Wow.
of crazy. I think my goal when I
Yeah.
started it was like, wouldn't it be cool to do like a few hundred or 1,000? And
Yeah.
like now we've done over 5,000. Um,
Wow.
yeah, across any country, any language, any denomination.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the sample size, like I'm a nerdy data guy, so the sample size of the data we can look at is it provides some really interesting insights, which
Sure.
is where a
Sure.
lot of those blog posts that you're referencing come from, is that
Yeah.
we like to like study that stuff. Yeah.
If you were to talk to somebody that was maybe starting a church website, or
Mm.
even they have one and they're just trying to make it better, if you were to offer one piece of advice to them looking to improve their online presence, what would that advice be?
The photography, I think, is the biggest thing that you can change. Is a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I don't need to
Yeah.
write a whole what to expect page that says you can come in jeans or come in shorts or come as you are. If I just show a photo of the foyer and people are in jeans or shorts and, you know,
Yeah.
sipping coffee in service. Um, and so like we really need to like maybe get away from writing all of this kind of text and copy. And just like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's totally worth, getting someone in your congregation if they have the skill, or, just like maybe hire someone to come in for the day and just do like those. You can use those photos for forever. So I would
Yeah.
say like invest in the photos. And then the second thing I would say is every church I've ever worked with, the website's an afterthought. They're
Yeah.
putting all their intention on social media. Like everything is invested in social media. But the issue with that is that social media, you have to have followers, and those followers already follow you. And again, the
Yeah.
purpose is not to just transfer people from and around different churches in your community. Um, the website itself is actually doing more outreach than most people in your church are doing.
Yeah.
Like people in your community are Googling not for like church to attend, but they might be Googling for um, after school programs for kids or Easter
Yeah.
activities for kids or fun things to do this Christmas. And like, why shouldn't your church be the first result for that in your city?
Yeah.
And then that's where like come back to that Jesus content, because like the way we brought them to the website wasn't a spiritual way, but like let's just be nice and fun people to be around, and maybe that's like
Yeah.
the very first contact that we have with someone. And so like I
Yeah.
would say every person I've ever talked to, like I'm just like, oh, do you guys have a church website? And they're like, oh, I'm not going to show you it, I'm so embarrassed. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, if you're embarrassed, like everyone else that's seeing is probably getting that same feeling. And so
Yeah.
like this is the most important tool that you have, like outside of like you personally going and inviting someone to your church. Like the website
Yeah.
is doing that job for you every single day. You're just not representing yourself well. And so for us, the goal is to represent you well. And
Yeah.
it's a cool thing. Like we had a story I'd say it's about a month ago now. It was a few weeks before I saw you, but this church
Mhm.
wrote to our support team and they're like, something is wrong with our website. Like we're getting like way too much traffic. Like all of this stuff is happening. Like we're getting all these, like
Yeah.
they thought it was bots. And we were like looking at it like, no, everything looks normal. And then it turned out like they had just launched their new site with us. It turned
Uh-huh.
out their congregation just wasn't embarrassed, and they were sharing it with their friends. And so they're getting all this traffic to the site. And they figured
Yeah.
it out because they were actually getting people filling out forms that were real people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
That's
I mean,
great.
I'm holding on to this dream that every church would have a website they're not embarrassed of, because that's like the quickest win. Like another church a few years
Yeah.
ago said that they had an 800% increase in traffic. And it was literally just because people were no longer embarrassed to shoot
Yeah.
a text over to their friend and be like, oh, this is my church. Can you check it out?
Yeah.
And like, that's the power of the good website.
Yeah.
It cannot be an afterthought. Like it's got to be like, okay, let's put it on the website. Okay. Everything else, like that Easter
Yeah.
blog, I think is maybe the one that you're referencing. And
Yeah.
it says that on Easter weekend, which is obviously the most attended church service of the year,
Mhm.
only 10% of people come to church websites from a social media post, and 40% come from just straight Google search. And that doesn't
Wow.
even include like direct sharing to friends. So like it's people just searching Google, looking for a website, making the decision. And so if you're embarrassed of your site, they're probably feeling that too, and they're just not going to come. They'll go to the next site.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah,
good.
I say all that to say, like, it's worth investing the time. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money, but it's worth, like, put the time into making it a website you're proud of. Yeah, you'll see a result.
One thing that I wanted to get your thoughts on, you've kind of shared a little bit about this, but when we went through our rebrand at our church 3 years ago, that was when we started with the Church Co. And whenever we did that, we tried to make a dramatic shift. Our website had always been lined out to be informative to our people and share more about what's going on to our people. It felt very internally focused. And whenever we went through the rebrand, we tried to flip that and make it more externally focused. And part of that was from the advice that we had seen from your team. And so we have a church app that we really try to shift all of our internal stuff to, and our website, we try to make it more externally focused. What are some of the benefits that you see? You've already mentioned some of this, but in doing something like that and making your website more externally focused, what are some things that you've seen in those cases?
Yeah, I honestly can't imagine probably the internal tension and meetings you probably had to go through to get it across the line, right? And it makes sense, right? You don't want to push away your existing members, but I also find existing members they understand the goal, and you get to talk to them every week. So like it doesn't have to be. I agree with you. I think the app is members. I would use an app for members. I'd use a website for new people. But you can also make it a page on your website. So, and you get to tell them every single week. There's like an announcement section of your church service. So you can say, you guys already know this, but of course, like all this information's on like, your website.church/info or whatever, or all this information's in the app. Download it now by scanning this QR code. So your members know and they're informed. They know where to find this information. The benefit of that and separating that from either a page or an app is you freed up the homepage to be an invite. Like there's so much talk about like you should have a plan of visit page or what to expect page. I'm very much like you should not. Your homepage should be that thing because you're never guaranteed a second click from a person. They click the homepage, they scroll, they make their decision. That homepage is the plan of visit. Like it is telling people why they should come, why they should attend. And like I said, if you check your analytics, you can see like new versus returning users to the website. And it's usually like 80% new, 20% returning.
Wow.
And, a lot of that 20% could also be staff. There's like, it's like the results that we're seeing for mobile usage. It's like 80% mobile, 20% desktop. And I'm convinced that 20% is the person editing the website.
Sure.
It's like, but I think it's a huge benefit because, like I said, there's people already searching for different topics in your community. If your website answers those questions in an inviting way, and asks for nothing in return, like you've just built some relational and brand equity with a person that could potentially come into your church later. So I 100% support that approach. How did it play out for you? I'm interested. Like, how have you seen results?
We have seen a lot of positivity come out of that. Our people have really taken to the app, and it's been really helpful to create more, one-on-one conversations within the app that we weren't having on our website anyways. But now our website, everybody, like you said, we have much more traction on our website just due to people saying, hey, I'm going to text you the link to our page, or hey, I'm going to text you this. Or just recently we did an event that was a day at the park where we went out and evangelized to our cities, and we used a page on the site to explain how to share your testimony, how to share the story of Jesus, all of that. And so now those sit on our website. So now people can just send people to that webpage to learn those things. So it's been a challenge at the beginning to like you said, have those meetings and get everybody on the same page to do that. But once we did, it really has seemed to be much more of a evangelistic tactic now as a church body, that now our website isn't for us anymore, but it's to draw people to the place that will share Jesus with them. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on that a little bit because you were the one that turned us onto that idea, and now we'll never look back on that. It's been some great advice.
It's really good to hear. We don't often get to hear like post the website launch. Like we can kind of track analytics, but we don't get to hear a lot of the like internal stories of like how did it play out for you. So that's pretty great to kind of like hear that it worked, you put it into practice and you saw results from it and you'll never go back.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so now when you think about the future of the Church Co., I know you're 10 years in, which is a great mark. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
For sure. As you look to the next 10 years, what does the future of the Church Co. look like, and what are some of your big goals that you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have been internally working for, you might not like notice it every day in your dashboard, but behind the scenes, we are cranking through some really exciting new stuff. And we've launched, we completely rebuilt the entire platform from scratch over the last like 2 years. And I've kind of like been rolling it out slowly to new customers. And you've probably seen, but like we're migrating people from the old platform over to the new platform now. And the feedback has been incredible. Like people it gives a little bit more design freedom than the old platform used to have, but also like things are truly integrated. Like there's so much talk about all-in-one systems, and we've always been like, well, no, like I'm not opposed to them, but I think best in class is always better. And so like we love like the integrations that we've been able to build and further build in the new system with Planning Center and Push Pay and Church Suite. We're not kind of like trying to get you to leave those things. If you've got your systems in place, stick with them. The website and our app should work in tandem with those things. And so those have improved a lot. And then we've kind of rolled out like our own kind of like systems as well, and new features and new tools that are in our pipeline. And so behind the scenes from like an engineering perspective, there's a lot happening. And I like to think, because we've been able to stay like a very small team, but a very efficient team, that we're just moving so fast and staying up on trends and surveying the space to see what people want and see how we can roll it out as quick as possible. And so that's something I like about our company. I say it like that. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm bragging on like our team, like Aiden, the head of engineering, and Danny in support, and Nikki like in operations, and Brianna and Courtney and everyone. Right? It's like very much a team effort, and we're all kind of like aligned on like we really want the church to be like have very good technical tools that help them make it help them increase the reach of their message, reach new people, and then make like in-service experiences just seamless. And so that's kind of what we're focused on. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm really excited by it.
Well, that's good. That's exciting stuff. And I'm glad to be one that's getting to benefit from that team's work. I'm grateful for your team, grateful for your heart behind it, more than anything, just that Jesus is the thing that drives the Church Co. and that you want to see churches, websites point others to Jesus. So thank you for walking through that story today. Thank you for sitting down on the Maker's Image to share that.
Thanks for having me. It was fun. It's really good to chat.
Thanks for listening to the show today. I hope you leave this episode feeling encouraged and inspired. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the show now and turn on notifications so you don't miss new episodes. To find our other resources or to learn more about Crafted Network, visit craftednetwork.org.